Welcome to Witches in Yoga Pants, your cozy corner of the cosmos where modern magic meets everyday life. We're here to explore magic, mindfulness, and personal growth with a grounded, no-fluff vibe. Whether you're into moon rituals, tarot spreads, or just trying to survive Mercury Retrograde, you are in the right place. So get ready to disrupt some old patterns, explore what it means to reclaim your power, and remember who you really are. So pull up your yoga mat, light a candle, and let's get into it. Hello, welcome back. We just moved through Lunar New Year, that beautiful reset that's rooted in the rhythm of the moon rather than the calendar on the wall. And it reminds us that life moves in cycles, in seasons, and in spirals. So now, as we begin to feel that subtle shift towards spring, not quite the full bloom, but that quiet stirring underneath the surface, Mercury is preparing to go retrograde again, February 26th through March 20th. So this week, I'm re-releasing a previous episode on Mercury Retrograde. I originally recorded this back in November, but the message is timeless, and here we are again, Mercury Retrograde. And honestly, it feels even more aligned right now, because if Lunar New Year is about intention and early spring is about preparation, then Mercury Retrograde is about integration. It's about tending to what is already planted. Rather than creating something brand new, it felt fitting to return to this conversation because retrograde energy is about returning, revisiting, refining. So if you've listened before, notice what lands differently this time. And if it's your first time hearing it, trust that you're arriving exactly when you're meant to. All right, let's step back into this conversation and harness the power of the pause. Welcome back to Witches in Yoga Pants. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're diving into something that gets blamed for just about everything. Lost emails, missed text messages, exes popping up out of nowhere. Yeah, you guessed it, Mercury retrograde. But what if it's not the cosmic villain everyone says it is? What if it's actually the universe's way of handing you a much-needed pause button? So instead of treating it like cosmic chaos, we're going to reimagine it for what it truly is. A sacred invitation to slow down, listen in, and realign. Rather than resisting, we're going to lean in and learn how to harness the power of the sacred pause. So grab your coffee, cozy in, and let's get into it. Mercury is the planet that governs how we speak, think, and how we move through information. It rules communication in all forms: spoken words, written messages, technology, and travel, and even the way we talk to ourselves inside of our heads. 3 or 4 times a year, Mercury appears to move backwards from our point of view here on Earth, and it's a visual illusion known as retrograde. But energetically, it can feel like everything starts moving in slow motion, inviting us to pause, reflect, and realign. What we're exploring today is true for any Mercury retrograde season. Astrologically, Mercury is all about exchange. It governs the exchange of words, ideas, and emotion. And when it retraces its path, those currents turn inward. It's like the universe whispering, slow down, look again, you might find something you missed. You've probably heard the warnings. Don't sign contracts, expect delays, back up your files. And sure, those things can happen. But they're not punishment. They're patterns that we can see unfolding. Mercury simply magnifies where our attention has drifted. If something slips through the cracks, it's usually the place where we were moving too fast to begin with. Energetically, this Mercury retrograde moves through the gates 9, 34, 14, and 43 in human design. Each of these gates brings its own flavor to the conversation: focus, power, prosperity, and insight. Together, they remind us that Mercury retrograde isn't just about slowing down, it's about refining how we use our energy, our voice, and our ideas. As Mercury moves through our human design chart, this retrograde, it passes through gate 9 first and invites us to be mindful of where we want to focus our attention. It then shifts to gate 34 and amplifies our personal power and how we express it. It reminds us to stay occupied, but not to burn ourselves out by forcing. And then it passes through gate 14. It highlights our relationships with resources and value and reminds us to be grateful for what we already have. Before it turns back direct, it swings through the gate 34 and opens the channel for sudden insight, inspiration, and allows those flashes of knowing that arrive when the mind finally gets quiet. This retrograde reminds us that our words and our energy are currency. And when we pause to align them with intention, communication becomes creation. Mercury retrograde is a rhythm of returning. Every word that I'm going to talk about today holds a clue to how we can move through this season with grace. So let's walk through them slowly, intentionally, because each one offers a practice. The first one I have for you is relax. When things glitch or plans shift, your first impulse might be push harder, but instead I invite you to take a breath. Relaxing is moving into a state of trust that the universe's plan, even when it feels bumpy, difficult, or frustrating, remembering that everything is unfolding with divine grace, exactly how it should, even if it's not meeting your expectations. It is a trust that meets life as it is, not as you expect it to be. Here's an example. Your flight's delayed, and this is happening more these days. So, what do? You can stew in frustration, or you can use that extra hour to journal, stretch, or watch the sunset through the airport window. Mercury asks you to soften into what is, not to wrestle with what you think should be. Next up, we have return. Retrograde often pulls us back into what's unfinished or unacknowledged. Maybe an old friend reappears, or maybe a forgotten dream tugs at you. Now, mind you, return doesn't always mean to go back. It may mean you can retrieve what still matters. Here's an example. You come across an old notebook with ideas you never got around to. And you can almost hear Mercury say, you weren't ready then, but maybe you are now. Retrograde is an excellent time to pick up old projects or ideas that you may have already started and return to them. Then we have renew. This is a season for remembering what you've said yes to, thinking about the commitments you've made, and checking in to see if you want to renew them. Use this as a time to see what still fits. This can be your work, promises you've made to your well-being, to your relationships, or to your dreams. It's time to check in with what you truly are devoted to. Breathe new life into those promises that bring you back to yourself. Maybe your morning meditation slipped away months ago. No beating yourself up here. Use this time to remember how good it felt to be centered and renew your commitment to help you achieve that. Speaking of renewing, this flows right into our next reword, review. Double checking details might feel tedious, but it saves frustration later, especially if you're a manifesting generator. You are designed to have this urge to want to skip steps to get to the end goal, but slowing down can sometimes save you a lot of hassle in the end. Here's an example. You pause before you hit send on a text, and you're rereading your message and you notice the tone might be a little off. So you go back, soften a few words, add a smile face emoji, and suddenly the energy of the whole conversation shifts. Review is mindfulness in action. This is also a powerful time to renegotiate. Mercury retrograde gets a bad rap for contracts, but it can actually be the perfect time to revisit the ones you already have. This energy supports reviewing where your agreements, financial or otherwise, might need to be updated or rebalanced. It's a good time to call your credit card company and ask about lowering your interest rate. Check in with your phone or internet provider, see if there's a better plan or a promotion available. Look at your subscriptions or utilities and notice where your energy and money are going. Sometimes renegotiation isn't about confrontation, but clarity. It's about realizing you've grown and what once fit perfectly may now need an adjustment. So instead of fearing Mercury retrograde, use it as a window to advocate for yourself, to realign your agreements with your current energy, values, and worth. It's also a beautiful time to reflect. Think of reflections as integrations rather than judgment. It's a gentle act of looking back to understand the process of where you've been, how far you've come, and where you want to go next. Maybe you revisit a journal entry from a hard season and realize how much stronger, softer, or clearer you've become since then. That awareness is growth, not because everything is perfect now, but because you can finally see the wisdom that came from the journey. And this leads us right into our next concept, revise. This asks us to return to what we've already created, to see it with new eyes, deeper insight, and a wider heart. Sometimes what we thought was finished was really just waiting for us to grow into it. Mercury retrograde gives us a space that's like a breath between versions, because sometimes the best version of something only reveals itself when you've slowed down enough to hear it. Revamp is our next reword, because Mercury loves order. This is a time to clutter clear your life, your home, your mind, or anywhere that feels too full. Clearing clutter clears energy. Here's an example. You finally clear your desk or organize your altar or refresh the space where you create. And as you move things around, you may notice the energy moving too. It's not just tidying up, it's realigning. And it feels easier to think, almost like a breath of fresh air. Because Mercury is the planet of communication, it's also important during retrograde to refrain. This means pausing before reacting and thinking before speaking. Here's an example. You're typing up a heated reply to an email, but instead you stop, take a breath, and choose to respond with compassion. Refraining doesn't need to feel like suppression. Think of it as more like conscious direction of your energy. We can also use this time to rethink. As life evolves, so should our ideas. Check in. Do you have a belief that once kept you safe, but now feels restrictive? Something that once felt true for you, but now things have shifted. Mercury invites you to rewrite that story. Ask yourself, is this thought still true for who I am now? You can choose to rethink and redesign your belief system at any time. We can also use Mercury's energy to reconnect. Think about old friends you'd like to reconnect with, but just have let the busyness of life cause a disconnection. Think of forgotten passions. Maybe you've been wanting to knit a scarf or just take time to paint or be creative. Lean into what's calling out to you for reconnection, because reconnection restores vitality. Next up, we have resolve. Unresolved energy lingers like static in the background, quietly draining your power. This might be a conversation you've been avoiding or something you keep meaning to finish but can't quite face. When you finally bring closure, speak the words, send the message, tie the loose end, you can feel the air clear. Mercury supports completion. It helps you release what's been lingering so new beginnings have room to take root. You can also use this time to repeat, to remember that repetition is reinforcement. You can restate your boundaries, your needs, and your truth with calm consistency. Now, retrograde can be a time when communication can go awry. So, if you are needing to have an important conversation during this time, you might find it helpful to repeat yourself. You can restate your comment in a different manner, and then just check in with the other person to ensure that they are understanding you in the way that you are intending. When you look at all of these rewords together, you'll start to see a pattern. And notice the sacred cycle. Retrograde slows the spin just long enough for you to remember your rhythm. Yeah, your phone might glitch. And yes, travel might tangle. But maybe those pauses are checkpoints. Cosmic reminders asking, are you still aligned? During this retrograde, speak less from reaction and more from resonance. So, as Mercury begins its backward dance, remember this isn't a time to fear. It's a time to fine-tune. It's the universe offering you space to breathe, review, and realign. So if things slow down, let them. If plans change, trust that the new timing might be divine timing. And if communication feels tricky, practice curiosity instead of assumption. Ask, clarify, and listen. Mercury retrograde reminds us that everything meaningful, relationships, projects, transformation, needs space to unfold. That pause you resist, just might be the portal you've been waiting for. Until next time, may you find grace in the pause, wisdom in the reflection, and trust in the rhythm of your own unfolding. Take what you've heard today even further by joining my newsletter community. Each week, you'll receive journal prompts and reflections connected to the episode that are designed to guide you in bringing these conversations off the podcast and into your own journey. Let's keep going deeper together. The link is waiting for you below.